One Happy Chappy in a Snappy Serape is the fourth episode of the seventh season of Cheers. This is directed by the wonderful James Burrows, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. It's a solid episode. There was one moment when I really laughed out loud, and I will be enjoying that for the rest of the day. And in general, it's definitely better than the previous episode. That's not to say I don't like the previous episode, but as I mentioned in that discussion, I don't like Teal as a character. He's not meant to be likable, and I just find his scenes to be really, really uncomfortable. But actually, he's not in this too much. It starts off with Rebecca in her office, and she's on the phone, and she gives her name as Rapunzel, and she's talking about a problem she's having with her boss and a character called Samson, and she's on this radio helpline, and it turns out that actually it's a gardening show. It's a gardening helpline. And then at the end of the scene, Carla comes in with a little radio. They'd all been listening to her. I thought that was a really fun way of recapping. Rather than just saying last week on Cheers, it's actually a little bit different and gives us a separate scene rather than just recapping things with a voiceover. And I thought that was very creative, and I rather enjoyed it. In the next scene, the guys are talking about mini golf. Teal then comes down from Melville's, and Dennis goes to talk to Rebecca or get Rebecca from her office. And I love Dennis's attitude. I liked him in the previous episode, but he's great in this episode. And we find out something about him, but it's towards the end. But I rather enjoyed this character quite a lot. As much as I don't like Teal, I love the fact that he comes with Dennis. And Dennis takes Rebecca over to Teal, and Rebecca has to tell Teal that she's engaged to Sam and that she can't be with Teal because her relationship with Sam is serious. Sam then comes in, and Rebecca talks with him and tells him what she's saying, and Sam asks, "If I go along with this, will you go to bed with me?" And Rebecca says, and I rather like this, she said, "If you don't go along with this, I will never go to bed with you." Nice bit of wordplay, definitely turning things around. Basically, she's saying she never... Well, I don't need to explain it. You know what it means. But I rather enjoyed that quite a lot as well. And it gave Sam a little bit of confusion, which is not that unusual. And they go over to Teal, and they're hugging, and they're close, and Sam tries to kiss her, and Rebecca's clearly kind of trying to disappear inside of herself. But it's lovely to see them being close like that. And Teal has a trick up his sleeve. And he basically tells Sam, well, if you're engaged with Rebecca, you're not going to want this 1 month relief bartender position in Cancun. Sam didn't need to be asked twice, and off he went. And we cut immediately to a month later. And the relief bartender at Cheers is a character called Ramon. He's played by Marco Hernandez. And then we get the bit where I laughed out loud. The pacing of this, the delivery, absolutely fantastic. They're talking about Cancun and warmer climates, and Cliff says, "It seems that the tropical sun dries out a man's vital juices. Have you ever seen a raisin?" In itself, very funny. And then we pause, not for too long, but we just have a beat to enjoy what Cliff said. And then we get what Norm said, where he just replies, "Have you ever seen a doctor?" Not funny when I say it, but I promise, very, very entertaining. I laughed out loud at that, and I rather enjoyed it quite a lot. Teal and Dennis then come in. It turns out Sam missed the corporate jet. He's not coming back after all. However, they do have Cancun on the line, and Rebecca talks with Sam, and then we just see Sam having a really great time in Cancun. He is absolutely loving it. And I have to say, as much as I think Cheers is the right place for him, he does seem to fit in well with the atmosphere in Cancun. Teal explains that he's been fooling around there the entire time, and that's not what Rebecca wants to hear. And Carla goes to grab Ramon because clearly they still need a relief bartender, and Norm suggests that maybe Sam will never come back. Thanks a lot, Norm. That's what we want to think about. And the guys suggest that maybe they all go down there tomorrow. And then actually what does happen is we cut to the next scene, and Rebecca has gone to Cancun. And here we have further progression with the character of Rebecca. I can't really say too much about this without giving anything away, but basically from day one, Rebecca has become increasingly unhinged. And when she goes to get Sam and he refuses to go with her, she pulls a gun on him, which definitely is an escalation. And I just find so interesting, I think is the right word, that we have both Diane and Rebecca, both with very different mental health problems, both very different people, but also affecting Sam's life in very strange ways. And it's not an easy life for Sam. I feel like ever since Diane came along, and then Diane left, and he tried to go out in his boat, and that crashed, and then Rebecca comes into his life, and that's an absolute whirlwind. He can't catch a break, and Rebecca ends up leaving without him, and she's in Cheers, and Carla goes to get Rebecca from the office. I was laughing at something in my notes that Carla says in a moment. I'll get to it in a second. And Rebecca's been drinking, and she goes around the other side of the bar. Teal comes in just as Carla is leaving, and Carla says, "Hey, we're the same size," which I just absolutely loved. I'm the same size as Carla, so I'm allowed to laugh at that. And Teal asks Rebecca, "Will you do me the honour of becoming my wife?" And she says, "I guess." And in true Teal style, we've only known him for 2 episodes, but it definitely seems in keeping with his character. Once she says, "I guess," he opens the door and in walks Dennis and the Justice of the Peace and a whole bunch of roses. And Rebecca tries to get out by saying, "We can't get married. My parents aren't here. What about your parents?" And Teal points out that his mother passed away and she's met his father. Dennis is his father. I love that. I did not see that coming. I've seen this before. I did not remember it. Thankfully, having a terrible memory means that when I rewatch sitcoms, I really just get to enjoy them for the first time again. And I did not see that coming. So I'm very, very amused by that. And just in time, Sam comes swooping in and goes straight up to Rebecca, and Teal has no choice but to walk away. And Rebecca ends up passing out in Sam's arms. And Sam, to his credit, did not take advantage of the situation, although, to be fair, if he did, considering she was passed out, that would probably be a criminal offence. But he decides to take advantage of the situation in a different way by drawing on her face. And it was a nice, light-hearted way to end things. And of course, good old Sammy coming in to save the day at the last second is just, it's absolutely beautiful. And I think it was obvious he was going to come back. But definitely a very chaotic episode in a way that's very enjoyable. Personal highlights, I guess, would have to be, well, Cliff and his razor, Norm and his comment about the doctor, and Carla saying, "Hey, we're the same size," which I absolutely loved. Teal is not a great character. I don't like Teal at all, but I think this episode went perfectly. Definitely not a great time for Rebecca either. She definitely is quite rapidly becoming more and more unhinged, but we'll talk no more about that for the moment. Definitely a better episode than the previous one. In fact, I absolutely loved it. One happy chappy in a snappy serape is a really brilliant episode of Cheers with quite a few really fantastic moments.